always thought silence was harmless, until the night I realized it had been studying me longer than I'd been listening to it. I spent most of my career interviewing offenders who believed they understood fear better than the people they hurt. But the real fear wasn't in them. It was in the thing hiding in the darkness of the room. When I was called to this case, the thinness of the file bothered me, because whenever a file is thin, the truth is always under a thick shadow. The last place the 3 missing people were seen was the same, an abandoned care facility outside the city. The reports were inconsistent, the statements were contradictory, but they all shared a single sentence. Inside, not someone, but something was whispering. On the first night, while standing at the entrance of the building, I didn't feel the cold. I felt the building watching me. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary block of concrete. But even before I went inside, a pressure surfaced, reminding me of my oldest fears. The lights weren't working. Only the faint circle of the flashlight in my hand wandered across the walls. When I stepped into the first corridor, I could swear even the rusty doors that no one had touched for years were breathing before me. I felt my heartbeat in my fingertips and walked without allowing my voice to emerge, because a voice inside me was telling me I should fear the answer I'd hear. While checking the rooms of the missing people, I found no signs of struggle. This unsettled me even more because no one disappears without leaving a trace. On the walls, there were lines I couldn't make sense of, shapes that looked like a child's scribbles, but were drawn consciously enough to form a geometric pattern. The moment I touched them, a chill ran across my fingers, as if the lines carried a faint warmth, like they had been waiting for someone for years. At that moment, a door opened by itself. Instinctively, I pointed my flashlight, but inside was nothing but darkness. When the door opened fully, I heard a breathing sound from inside, like a human sound, but without rhythm, without order, as if it had just learned how to breathe. I wanted to step back, but something was pulling me toward that room. I realized my feet weren't listening to me. When I entered, there was an old wheelchair in the middle of the room. Behind the chair, leaning against the wall, I found a file. When I opened it, there were photos of the 3 missing people, but all their faces had been completely blackened out with a single stroke of a pen. On the last page of the same file, I saw my own name. The moment I saw it, the door of the room closed, and the darkness behind me moved, as if it had found the person it had been searching for all these years. The breathing sound was now closer, warmer, and more conscious. The sound wasn't coming from inside the walls. It was coming from directly behind me. I slowly lifted the flashlight, but the light wasn't illuminating the sounds I heard. Because the darkness wasn't an empty void, it was an entity, and it could hold the light itself. I felt a touch on the back of my neck, like a human hand, but without fingers, only pressure. I realized it was trying to speak to me. Words weren't coming out, but it was reflecting my thoughts back to me. This entity fed not on people's fears, but on people themselves. It knew me. It knew my files. It had been watching the people I interrogated for years and their weakest moments. In my own voice, it whispered to me, "You do the same thing I do. You listen to people and I listen to you." Inside me, my memories overlapped. The dark rooms of my childhood, the emptiness in the eyes of murderers I questioned years ago, the questions I couldn't answer. All of them suddenly filled my mind. This thing wasn't just decoding the human mind. It was rewriting it. When I tried to run, I felt my legs didn't belong to me. The entity was moving before I did. I noticed the lines on the walls reacting slightly to the light. The lines were moving, closing me into the room. When I tried to reach the door, my breath was cut off because an invisible weight was holding me behind it. I understood now. The missing people hadn't been abducted. They had been taken inside. And being taken inside didn't mean dying. Being taken inside meant losing your mind. At that moment, the entity touched my body and I felt warmth in my chest, as if it was smelling my deepest thoughts. With all my strength, I directed the light toward the entity. For the first time, the light trembled as if hitting something, and the darkness withdrew slightly, as if moving away from me. When I escaped into the corridor, I heard the floor vibrating beneath my feet. The building was breathing, and it didn't want to let me go. When I found the exit door, a whisper came behind me, this time very clear. "You listen to me. Now I will find you." When I stepped out of the building, the air was colder. But the cold outside was heaven compared to the warm breath of the darkness inside. When I got into my car, my hands were still trembling. As I started the engine, I heard a faint breathing sound from the back seat. When I looked through the trembling mirror, I saw nothing, but the sound continued. At that moment, I understood why that silent file was so thin. Because the story never ended inside the building. The building was only the beginning. The entity wasn't following doors, it was following people. And even when I stepped outside, I'd carried my breath with it. I started the car, and as the headlights illuminated the road, I had only one feeling inside me. Even writing this story was something the entity wanted. Because the more I tell it, the more people it will reach.